think there's too many things for this. We all are. We're almost definitely not getting Charlotte.
Sorry.
We're almost definitely not getting Charlotte. That's almost possible.
Well, I don't care about that.
No,
Because really, I mean, that's a loophole.
but, yeah, but
Hot mic.
but there's going to be, there's just a lot of teams, you know. Maybe something will break. I don't know. I think it would be a good start. Yeah, beating the Raiders.
They couldn't overcome that.
Huh?
They could not overcome that.
Who could
Notre
overcome?
Dame could not
Oh,
overcome
no chance. No, that would not fit. That would not
Right.
fit.
That would eliminate that. I don't know.
But that also means our business.
It's changing. Well, but then again, if you pick it up when you win it, right?
Hopefully, yeah. But
But
they're,
they're smart. I realized that this week. Notre Dame's
they play
all you gotta do is be 12. Every year, you just gotta be 12.
every year. And it,
Right? I mean, am I seeing that right?
they're being enabled to do this. Because everybody just,
And if USC doesn't want to play Notre Dame with their situation, okay, let's see, okay, goodbye.
they play less than Texas A&M. That's it.
And we're not going to play them. No, it doesn't pay.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's hard to swallow. I'm not telling you that I think that I don't love the game and everything that goes with it.
You gotta have at least one big game like that.
But they're not. You're not. You're not. If it's not early,
Well, they are early.
I don't think that Notre Dame is going to be early.
But we gotta stop freaking losing to Louisville and SMU. That's all we gotta do.
Yeah.
We're better than both those teams.
We were better for enough minutes against Louisville. It was a damn good football team.
You gotta win that game. You got them at home.
I understand. I've heard it.
You can't throw 5 interceptions.
Huh?
You can't throw 5 interceptions. I mean, you don't think that happened?
And that's the craziest shit. Is the kid comes off a 4th touchdown, 0 for the day, and rolls into fucking fire. Huh? What?
Who's trying to win? He's on national TV, prime time.
I'm going to say, okay, so he threw 4, right? Credited for 2 were not his team.
No, agree.
And the last one, which could have and should have won the game, was a great play call. That kid did not run away.
How's that happen? I can't, how's that?
Do you know what's funny? How does it happen? It happens, it seems to happen more in the skill rooms than anywhere.
How many times has that been run in practice?
Well, 1,000?
1,000?
And you don't think that there's a conversation before the drive? God, they know.
I don't think that was. I think you should have said, we should have done that.
But why should put in reality that it's week 6? What about week 6? Why should you have to?
You should have that.
You're coming off, when off on a bye week? Is that off a bye week? Okay, so you know you ran that thing for like 2 weeks. You ran that for 2 weeks.
Theoretically, yeah.
I don't have the answer.
As good as he is,
Disappear.
contribute 0 to
Disappear.
0. 0.
He's been good at blocking on 70-80%. If I had that money, I'd have been broke on that kid.
Oh, me too. I thought he was the best actual pure football player on the team.
Period. we'd be undefeated today.
You know what the problem is? He's not a pure tight end. He's not a tight end.
I agree with that.
He's not a skill.
Okay, good afternoon, guys. Thank you for being here. All right, so, it was good to see a lot of guys get the opportunity to play on Saturday in the win over Syracuse. A lot of different guys, some new faces, some guys that have been here for a year, a little bit more, but all in all, just tremendous opportunity to not only get playing time, but to develop some depth and certainly be able to address and correct some of the issues after a victory. So certainly here to answer questions, so please go right ahead.
To that point, how does it, I guess you could file it under nice problem to have, but how does that work for coaches now? When you have more film on guys and now you have some options at some certain positions, does that just go back to what you always preach about, like competition during the week is going to dictate a lot of things?
I think the two best examples are, and we talked about in this morning's team meeting, Dalen Upshaw would take 4 reps for the scout team. He'd sprint over to the other field and take 4 reps for the offense, sprint back and do the same. And so did Gerard Pringle. And both those guys had some very significant plays that helped change the momentum on Saturday. So can't overstate it enough how important it is to just buy into development, because those guys, if you take the attitude of, well, I'm not going to get my shot, then, and the execution of the plays that they ran were very telling that the entire time they had been, buying, trying to create more progress to be able to play, that they were really paying attention to detail because their plays were very detailed execution type plays.
You guys, you had some stuff happen the first 4 drives, and a lot of it was self-inflicted. It wasn't like the week before with flags and whatnot. When the start doesn't go according to plan, how important is sideline energy? How would you assess how the sideline energy has been? Like, how important is that when you are kind of running in place a little bit?
Yeah, sideline poise is huge. And I think very different than maybe the previous weeks. We did a much better job with the pre-snap penalties and a much better job not turning the ball over and forcing turnovers on the other side. But for example, the first drive, there's a batted ball that has a chance to be a monster play, right away play 1. And then there's some, a lack of execution in the form of a drop or a pressure or a sack or something of that nature, things that were really, really close, but plays to be had, because obviously not only with your information up top, but with the iPads, you can see, okay, is this thing worth going back to and dressing up, or is it something we have to move on from due to a schematic issue? And it was determined, okay, we can do this, we can get it right, let's focus on just doing our job. And the guys, they did a great job. They had great energy towards each other and towards the entire team, really.
Mario Cristobal, we knew the big play potential. It's good to see it start to come out in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, he certainly had 2 really, really productive weeks. Explosive player, really hard-working player, really high-energy guy, a guy that has an impact on the other guys in the room. Phenomenal attitude every single day. Comes to work just ready to go, ready to bring energy, ready to bring some juice. And all the stuff he's been doing in practice is really, really showing up. And now, another weapon that people have to account for, which certainly helps us as an offense, distribute the ball a little bit more.
You've the last couple of weeks you've been out without 2 guys you've talked about as key leaders on offense, Mark Fletcher and CJ Daniels. Have you seen other guys in recent weeks step up and try and take on some of that leadership role?
I do. I think you see it in the form of some of the offensive linemen, in both Francis and Inez, James Brockemeyer as well. I think you see it in the form of Alex Bauman. He certainly does his part just to say the right things, to bring the right kind of energy, the right kind of demeanor. CJ, even though he has been out, has served as a tremendous assistant coach. Every single day he's had the wide receivers out there last week preparing them for their opportunity. At one point in time, I think there was a freshman back and 3 freshman wide receivers in the game with our quarterback. And there was no panic. There was nothing but just a very settled feeling knowing that they were prepared to execute what had to be called. So, yeah, we have seen, and we're expecting to see more and more down the stretch here in November.
I swear I'm not pandering to the audience here, but when you talk about kind of stepping into leadership, you just cited a bunch of offensive line. You're a pretty good football coach. There's a lot of offensive line pretty good football coaches. What is it about that position that tends to lead to, okay, this is a potential path if you choose to take it?
I mean, you're responsible for the largest group, you know, and it's kind of different in the sense. It's a lot like the secondary, actually, plus one more player. Now you play nickel, dime, and everything else, but at the same time, you include the tight end as part of the O-line as it relates to a lot of blocking schemes. But back to the original question, you're just responsible for the most position players, and schematically, the failure of one is catastrophic for an offense, as opposed to sometimes at other positions, a missed tackle, you know, got a big time defensive end or a safety come and make you right, you're going to be right. But if you're wrong up front, I mean, everybody, you know, typically it's not going to be a great play. So the diligence, the attention to detail, the flat out just almost the OCD approach to making sure everything humanly possible is done to not only be aggressive and play at a really high level, but also to make sure things are airtight, that you are not exposed to the 1% scenario. You know, the corner fire that's not protected to a two-man surface run, right? The nickel Mike pressure to a strong side run where, you know, the tight end's going to be a late add-on. All those things, they come into play protection-wise, man. It is like, you know, from the RPO world to the play action screen game. It's a lot comes with it. So I think a lot of guys that have that type of training and understand the diligence that goes with it, they're able to handle a lot, you know, in which, you know, part of coaching and then moving on to coordinators and being head coaches, it's a lot. And certainly it's changed over the years. There's a lot more now on the plate than there was even 5 years ago.
You got to ask Saturday about where you are right now in the CFP rankings and the big picture and, you know, all those things, all that noise that comes with that. Do you kind of like where the mindset of your kids are in that, you know, Carson got a similar question. He's like, yeah, let's go play, have fun, do the job, see what happens. Is that kind of like, could you have drawn up a better approach that you want the kids to have?
Last Monday when they came in, their approach, their urgency, and what they carried out to the practice field, it was very evident that they understand that we are on the verge of playing some really, really good football, and it's all on us and about us, and we have some great opportunities coming up, and from there, everything else does take care of itself. And now they understand that they have a great team coming in here, maybe the hottest offensive team, and maybe one of the most physical defenses that we have faced. And they know them, and they remember a lot of the guys were here 2 years ago. We went up there and we couldn't even score a touchdown, you know, against that defense. So they're very much where their feet are mentality, if that makes sense. And so all focus is on the fact that, you know, in November, you know what's the most important in November? Team and finish and toughness and discipline and all the things that you have done for, gosh, I don't know how many practices dating back to January, how many workouts, how many running sessions, how many OTAs. It's a ton, you know. I read them out this morning, but I have forgotten since then. You know, it's a long time ago. So their mindset is where it needs to be, and they're ready to get after it tomorrow. Had a great day today.
You praise Pringle and Upshaw for trusting the process, development, etc. In your experience, just seeing young players like that emerge late in a season, how does that push a room to be better due to the competition that young players can bring like that?
It just validates the word development, which again, nowadays it's almost profanity, the word development, you know, because development takes time and development requires patience. So yeah, it screams opportunity for those that continue to seek it, for those that understand that in college football and in pro football, right, everyone's talented to a certain degree. I mean, you don't make many mistakes on just lack of talent, but the internal makeup and the mentality are going to make the difference in who pushes and forges ahead and who maybe just kind of shrinks down or maybe even pouts. And when the opportunity comes, they don't perform, right? So I think there's a great lesson for everybody. There's also, you know what, a lot of these guys are young. That's like an eye-opener for some guys. It's like, wow, I should take that approach. That approach does work. It can work for me as well. So all in all, very positive.
With Pringle in particular, understanding it's a small sample size, but what is he showing you with his vision specifically?
Well, we all saw how explosive he is. You know, one of the big reasons why we recruited him, we want to be more explosive in every capacity on offense. So he showed that, but I thought his ability to get in and out of stuff, you know, and set some runs up, and not so much, you know, everybody saw, you know, when we got the pin and pull play that he scored upon, but I thought some of the tougher yards, you know, on tight zone and duo and mid zone, I thought he made a lot of extra yards, setting it up with both patience, speed, burst, and breaking some tackles. So he showed some really, really good stuff, and he earned himself, he was ironically a guy who was the scout team player of the week and was also a player of the game. That's probably a first. And that had to be a strong mention today, so that a good, you know, also for coaches, a great lesson for coaches. You know, I mean, just keep developing your entire room, not just those top guys.
What jumps off the sheet about NC State, obviously, like you said, they score winning points, and anytime you play a good team coming off a bye, and they have 2 weeks to get ready for you, that's a little bit of an edge going that way. What are the major areas that scream out to you?
Sure. Well, I'll start offensively, just really explosive. They're a top 5 team and plays at 50 yards or more, top 10 in every other explosive play. It starts with their quarterback, but it doesn't end there. Just really dynamic. We know him, certainly a local product that has developed into a great player. Could do it with his arm, extremely accurate, can do it with his feet. Both running backs, you know, you thought when some others went down, people, you know, maybe feared they might drop off a little bit. He averaged, I believe, 7 yards a carry or whatnot, and in comes Scott, and they played an unbelievable game against Georgia Tech. Just really dominant offensive football, and it's complemented by playmakers outside. They could flat out go a lot of 21.5, 22 mile per hour guys, and then a big, nasty physical offensive line, especially at the tight end position. You know, it was really important for our edge guys to watch today and see how physical they are, running power, counter, as a second puller, as the insert fitter. They take a lot of pride in both tight ends, 265, 270 pounds. They play with great technique, feet in the ground, hands inside. I mean, they do damage in both the run game and the pass game. So that's on offense. I think on defense, what you said right away, just watch the first play of their last game. How physical they were in setting the edge, really set the tone for the game. And you always want to see that. What's the line of scrimmage look like on play 1 and then on play 70, 80? And they are relentless up front and complemented by a really good back end as well. So, you know, we played against them, different scheme, but the same mentality, same culture, same type of players. I mean, they're playing as good a football at this time of year as, you know, as you can play.
Mario, when Akeem Esdor decided to come back with everything he's been through the last couple of years, injuries 2 years ago, playing basically completely inside last year, for him to have the year that he's having now, just what does that mean to be able to see him, him having that chance to thrive in this class?
No doubt. Happy for him, happy for us. Also happy that a guy listened to good advice. You know, certainly a lot of people are pulling on him, hey, you know, do this now, go pro or whatnot. You know, and he hadn't had a full, healthy season, and he's shown the entire world right now what he can do. And I mean, he's such a high impact player. He has learned the value of resilience. He has battled back from injuries and has come out on top and still getting better. His impact on his teammates is awesome. He's learned leadership, I mean, maturity. This guy, I can't say enough great things about him. I mean, I love the guy, his work ethic, I think he is a set the standard type of guy. And if you watch one of the plays where he was all the way on the backside, on pressure, a bounce or an inside zone play, that bounce, and then got outside where he had to hurdle a guy, chase him down, get him down to the ground, and then a series later, yanks the ball out when, you know, Syracuse is about to score. Those are monster plays. And not just the fact the ball came out, the way that he fought for it once the ball was on the ground, because he wasn't in an advantageous position there. But, you know, he did legally exactly what he could do, is get the ball and get in his possession. So I can't say enough great things about him. I love the fact that no one understands how banged up he was and how he played through. And I think for the team and the team culture, I think for the dozens of NFL scouts that come here on a weekly basis, that screams, you know, high level player, high level character, high level work ethic, and high level toughness, and a guy that you have to have in your franchise and in your program. So obviously I'm gushing about the guy, and I got to find a way to block him tomorrow in practice with our guys, but he is awesome.
How much does it add that, to go back to the energy, like sideline energy and that sort of thing? When the ball's live, he is not smiling.
Right.
When the ball is not live, he just always seems to be enjoying being around these guys, being out. I mean, he just has one of those $1 million smiles, one
Yeah.
of those guys. How much does that,
Yeah.
he exudes the right sort of energy. How much is that?
We had part of our meeting this morning was the value of energy and enthusiasm, and there's different ones. Like James Rockemeyer has that, the kickoff block, upshot go, upshot rolls, and there's 6 guys running down the sideline. Keelan's touchdown. You see Josh Moore, he almost runs over 4 people on the sideline, running through people to greet him when he comes off the field. When Ruben has his sack, the biggest cheerleader is Akeem Mesidor. That stuff is contagious. The value of that is awesome. When the sideline is that energetic, when the energy comes from within, it is 100,000 times more valuable than anything from the outside. So he certainly brings that, and he changes the mood and the tone of the team.
Mario, just in general, the last few games or whatever, how do you feel like you guys have been doing, getting pressure, essentially without blitzing, maybe your front four? Just how do you think that's gone?
How do I think the front four has?
Slight pressure on the quarterback without blitzing, just if you're just doing a straight rush, how is that?
Well, I would categorize it in what type of plays would you be referring to? Would it be the quick game? Because quick game is going to be hard, right? Ball comes out. That's more about mirroring the hand and hoping you get a tip. 5-step drop back, the gun, third down calls or whatnot. The screen game, it's not going to happen. I think overall, it's been really good. I think we've gotten more from the outside than from the inside, but I think our inside guys are becoming better pass rushers. We certainly do bring some exotic pressures on third down, so everyone kind of gets a piece of that. But I would gauge it as good. To give it like an exact grade, I'll have to go back. I'll get back to you tomorrow on exactly how they graded out, but we do have that information.
Obviously, we're not allowed in the room, but we know that President Faria, Mann, Stuart Miller, those guys tend to make a point of being around.
Yeah.
All of them, not just after the everyone win, lose, draw. The fact that the people tasked with running this place, and not just that, there's a lot of people, obviously, that they make it a point to be around not just your team, but all the teams. What does that add to the
Support, it's important that there's been a commitment made here to do it the right way and to make it sustainable. That businessmen that are also great leaders, father figures, men of action that understand that building champions requires every ounce from everybody, levels of urgency, dedication, commitment, work ethic, and that it is a relentless process where the margins, just like the games themselves, are really, really small. How can we gain those? So tremendous support group, hungry, driven group, so always good to see them there.
Mario, final home game of the regular season, the senior day, all that. For you specifically, the handful of guys who have been here, seniors who have been here with you since day one, what's that going to do for you to recognize those guys who have been with you from the beginning of the process to getting you guys to where you are now?
Well, you reflect upon that more after the game, so you don't get all sentimental during the course of the week. I don't think these are sentimental guys by nature, but I mean, this. You always think it's going to be a long time. You think it's a long, long ride, and all of a sudden you fast forward, and how many years has it been since your last college game? How many years has it been since And it hits you right between the eyes. But you wait till then, because right now, you know what they want and what they deserve? They deserve to go out and play their best football and find a way to be 1-0. That's all that matters. In November, all that matters is that all focus is on doing the things that give you the best chance to win. And we're certainly pouring every ounce that we possibly can into that.
To have a handful of guys who have been with you since day one, and the daily transfer portal era of people moving in and out, they don't see instant results leaving. The fact you have some guys who are still here who have been with you from the beginning, just to see those guys who have come as far as they have, the Leslies, and that's Coopers, even the team as they're transferring in your first year, to see the growth of those guys from
No doubt.
back to day one to where they are now.
Just great human beings, hardworking guys, loyal guys that took a chance on a program that really needed some massive rebuilding, and are now seeing a program that's becoming more and more consistent winner and getting closer and closer to some of the big picture goals that we have. And all those things are not possible without their complete commitment. Good. Okay. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Light group this week.
Oh, a short crowd today.
Any questions for offensive coordinator Shannon Dawson?
We could have did this in my office.
Shannon, the two trick plays, the throw to Carson, then the CC run, just when you get to draw plays up like that, who's more excited, are you or the players that came next to you?
Probably the players. I'm not overly excited. Those plays either make you look really good or really dumb. You know, you look across the nation and there's not a lot of them working out right now. So, but we've repped the one with CC for about 2 years now. And that's been in for a while. And so it just hasn't been the right time or situation really. And so it just popped up in that game and we just kept repping it. We had it in for a while. Cam Ward texted me after the game, like, finally called it. I was like, yep, finally called it. Worked like a charm, so good to see.
Shannon, what dictates that? I mean, the biggest question that we get is, why call it then? Why
Yeah.
not save it for a more significant moment? But then it's been practiced for 3 years and hasn't been called. What dictates that?
I mean, with certain trick plays you want in like the exact hash, the exact deal, and sometimes they just don't come up. You know, those situations just don't come up. And so, and there's other situations where you get in a close situation, but there's other plays you feel good about, you know, and the defense has to be a certain type of defense. Like if I see them doing a certain thing in that area on tape that is good for that play, I'll probably lean more to running it. But if a defense is unpredictable in that situation, then I'm not, because I need a certain defense to call a certain play like that. I have to feel good about it. And if a defense is being unpredictable in their man and zone, if they ran zone coverage right there, then CC don't score. They were in double edge man. They played the perfect defense for that play, you know, and they had shown on tape that they do that in that situation. Not all defenses do.
On the flip side, when you show these kinds of plays, what does it do for a defense essentially now where we're going to face? It's going to have to prepare, at least think about things you put on tape.
I think everything you put on tape, you have that in the back of your mind of making people in the future prepare for it. Certain formations and certain motions. We're always trying to find, you know, different ways to do things you do well. And that's the key to offense that people, I think, lose sight of, is the things you execute good in the game are typically the things you've been doing for a while. Having banked reps at things matters. And so a lot of times, you know, and I will probably say the reason we executed that play good is because we repped it for a long time. It wasn't something I just put in this week. You know, I don't know if we would have executed or not, who knows? But ultimately, things that you execute well are things that kids feel comfortable with, they've done a while. And so, you know, and you go through fall camp and we have a box of trick plays that we'll sprinkle through and just save them for right time. You know, and both of those that we ran this week, we ran in camp, you know, and it was just never the right time to do them until that day, because I mean, I knew we had faked the reverse a few times the week before, and I knew that they were thinking that we were going to toss it to Malley and run the reverse, and everybody would go for him, and then we could throw it back to Carson. And so that one was a pretty easy one to set up.
Did you think, like the first Malachi throwback to Carson, was there any sense, like after that play, that the sideline or you guys kind of loosened up and started playing more free?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's been the goal. The recent goal for us, and one of the reasons that those plays were in and I felt good about calling them was because I want our guys to have fun. And, you know, we have to play loose, we have to have fun. And so I felt like we were a little bit too uptight at times, and that restricts offense. That's fine if you play defense, because you can play defense with your jaw wired shut. You can play defense with high anxiety because it's destruction. But offense, you need to be even keel. You got to be calm. You have to execute. You know, so the two sides of the ball are drastically different. Although they get treated the same, a lot of times they're on different planets. They're aliens. And so I was trying to push our guys offensively to play loose. Stop worrying about the results so much. You know, because if you sit there and obsess about results and you obsess about, oh, we got to win this game, then you're going to play tight. You know, so at some point we have to just relax and execute the play that's called. And guess what? If it don't work out, then you got to move on to the next play. And you got to block out all the boos and all the stuff that comes with non-executing. And that's hard to do at times because there's just so many external factors, you know, that you're trying to shield the group away from. And so not every game is going to unfold perfectly. I mean, this game is a perfect example. I mean, the first quarter was slow for a lot of different reasons. It was very awkward. The stoppages in the game, it felt like we were standing around for an hour. And the flow of the game was weird, and we just needed somebody to make a play. And Dalen hit the New York, which really that play, you know, that play was the one that relaxed us, because we hit that one and then we scored a couple plays later, and it was like everybody kind of relaxed and just played ball.
With Dalen and with Pringle also, to be able to see some of these young guys who haven't had any reps, be able to step up in a big way, like you said, Dalen's catch, and
Yeah.
then Pringle with a touchdown in the third quarter, just to see them starting to step up, especially when you need them to, with no Daniels, no Fletcher.
Yep.
You guys being able to fill those roles.
Everybody, look, we're not any different than other teams across the nation. everybody's dealing with injuries, right? And when somebody gets injured, it's we hate it, but somebody's got to step up. You know, and that's typically when young guys get their opportunity, and you have to be ready. I mean, part of being ready is not getting down when you don't have your opportunity. That's the hardest thing to do in sports in general, is to stay the course when it isn't going your way. Because if you think about all the guys in the room, there's X number of guys in the room. Well, half of the guys in the room, the year isn't going their way. Does that make sense? And so they have to stay in a good mind frame to where when they get their opportunity, they can take advantage of it. And that's part of our job as coaches, is to keep them engaged and keep them in the proper mindset. But both of those guys, I will say, they probably were frustrated they weren't getting their opportunity, and that's okay. Like, I never, you know, question a kid to be frustrated because they want something so bad, right? But you can't let it affect your work ethic and the way you go about your business. And they didn't, man. They stayed the course, they stayed positive, and when they got their opportunity, they gave us a spark, and that was awesome because we needed it, right? We desperately needed it, and they stepped up.
With Pringle in particular, you know, he obviously flashes.
Yeah.
What does he bring to the offense that, you know, maybe gives some different looks, or, you know, what does he bring to the back?
Well, I mean, he hits it. I mean, he plays with a speed right now that we needed, right? And so, and I also think that, you know, we have a lot of guys in that room that can make a lot of plays, you know, and so we need to get more out of the run game, and he came in and gave us a spark, and I think it'll lift everybody up. I think it'll lift everybody up in that room, and so, you know, it was a spark that we needed in the run game, and Jordan's going to continue getting his reps, and he can do all the stuff too, you know. So, and Marty played a really, really good game, and he came in and he was a little different change of speed, and he hit it and got out, and that was awesome.
With Keelan Marion, we knew the big play potential he had the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
To start to see it on the field, just how good was it to start seeing the results that go with the potential?
Yeah, I mean, the last 2 games, he's really shown up in a big way. And although he only caught a handful of balls this game, he did a lot with them, right? And so the throw that Carson made through that window was elite. And he caught it and took it to the house. Obviously, the middle of the field was vacated. But I would say this about him. I mean, he's an awesome kid to be around. His attitude every day is off the chart. And so that part of it is probably the reason why the other stuff is showing up like it is, because the kid is phenomenal every day. His attitude and smile and just overall demeanor is off the chart.
It seems like lately teams are really focusing on taking away Malachi.
Yep.
Moving forward now, does that enter into your line of thinking in terms of just like using that to your advantage of like, okay, he's gonna get a lot of attention, we're gonna try and use that attention again?
Yeah, I think it opens up opportunities for other people, for sure. And that game in particular, you know, you never know how people are going to play. I do like to have ways to get him the ball when people are trying to take him away. He's one of those guys that, you know, that's why I put him in Wildcat, and that's why I did like a couple other deals with him, because when if people are going to bracket him, we should be able to run the ball really well, because that takes a guy out of the run fit. But ultimately, it does open up opportunities for other people. And you can go back and watch the first play of that game, and if that ball doesn't get tipped, he's probably got an 80-yard touchdown. And so they probably saw that too, and they started bracketing from then on. And so then, you know, other people have to obviously step up and make plays.
Have you ever, it's a strange question, but like a skilled player with his ability to throw the ball?
Yeah, it's weird.
Have you ever had a player like him?
No.
Legitimately throw it? Like,
No, not that like not that could line up in quarterback and play. You know, I mean, there's been a lot of Wildcat guys that you use that can like maybe throw it vertical, because that's kind of the easiest one to do, is just kind of throw a 50-50 ball. But he could throw through lanes. I mean, he's just a unique talent when it comes to, I mean, watching him throw the ball just pre-practice warming up, he just throws it with ease. And so I've never had anybody with his specific talents.
just with NC State, where are you seeing from them, their film on defense, and where are you some challenges there, I suppose?
The energy they play with is really the thing that sticks out. If you watch their last game, which they had an off week this week, but the Georgia Tech game was a different level of energy. And we get that energy from everybody, though. I mean, we're everybody's, everybody's level of enthusiasm when they play us is the highest of their year. And so we're going to get that from everybody, but they are playing with a lot of emotion right now, and they're playing very, very hard, and they strain, and they run through blocks. And, it was, what they did on defense against Georgia Tech was impressive. It was impressive, the effort they played with.
This was a big yards after catch game.
Yeah.
Passing game. Is that something that's planned? Is that something like?
No, a lot of it has to do with the way, because I got asked before the game about like throwing vertical, and I think that, a lot of it has to do with how the defenses played. And if you look at how Syracuse played us, it was pretty obvious from the beginning that they were obsessed about stopping our pass game. They were going to give us a weak box at times and play coverage. Well, you're probably not going to get a lot of just throws down the field when people do that. You're probably going to have to rip them like through a lane, and the guy's going to have to catch it and go. Kind of like Keelan's catch. And so it all depends on what the defense is trying to take away. And so I think that's why it's very important that we continue like running the ball well, because if you run the ball well, the defenses have to play honest defense, and they have to add that extra half a guy in the box, and then it opens up a lot of things in the pass game.
Shannon, just kind of your take on the, we haven't asked too much lately, the tight end position, just
Yeah.
there with what you're seeing, either numbers wise and yards after catch or yards per catch isn't there either. Just how are you guys going to navigate it? Do you feel like you can get more out of that group, or is it just kind of at this point, it is kind of is?
No, I feel like we can get more. I thought the last couple weeks of practice, they've had really, really strong weeks of practice, and sometimes it shows up on the game and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes they're, open and the ball doesn't go to them, much like some of the receivers, and so there was a pretty low possession game Saturday. So even Keelan, what did he have, 3 catches? What did Malley had 1, I think. And so I think Lofton had 1, so he had the same amount as Malley. If that tells you anything. The scope of receptions in that game, nobody had like 8, and so everybody had a couple. And so I don't view that as like anything different than I view Malley having 1. The balls go to who the balls go to, and typically the balls go to who's open. And so the defense does dictate that a little bit with the coverage, but the quarterback has a progression, and he goes 1, 2, 3, and they're in every route. Does that make sense? And so, the quarterback is going to find you when you get open, and those guys have been doing a great job the last, few weeks. Really, they haven't done a bad job all year. It's just we've missed them a couple times that have been some big ones, which that happens. But ultimately, they just need to keep doing what they're doing, and the ball will find them.
Cutting down on the penalties, just what went into that? I guess this week, and also just the impact that has.
Yeah.
Is it clear and obvious?
I think it was. We had 1 penalty on the day. It was a holding penalty, and we overcame it and scored that drive. But, typically, if we don't have penalties and turnovers, we win the game. I know that's not earth-shattering. That's not what people want to hear, but it's true. Our defense is playing really good, and, it's odd that we're like, I think we're either the number 1 or number 2 time of possession offense in the nation. And so it's like, what that tells you, and not a lot, because time of possession is kind of a useless stat at times, but what it does tell you is like the games are fairly close and in flow, and so if we don't give them a short field, we can have chances to win the game. And so, and not that I'm not overly harping on certain things, because I do think it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy when you like harp on it so much. Kids care. You pointed out, Coach Mirabal points it out, there were some subtle things we did and what we do that probably helped out, but ultimately, I think just kids care, and they're going to do what you ask them to do. They don't want to hurt the team or hurt the drive. They're not doing it on purpose, you know what I mean? And so I think that's the thing to keep in mind. It's different if you're doing something on purpose, but if you're not doing it on purpose, then like you know, sometimes it goes back to just playing a little looser, you know, just relax a little bit, you know.
The blocking on the up shot explosive.
Yeah.
Was it?
I mean,
what-
I've never seen a kick block quite executed like that. I've ran that screen for a long time, and typically if you catch them in man coverage, it's an explosive, right? It's the same screen we ran the SMU game, same exact play, same exact coverage, if that tells you anything. And so, but Dalen hit it, and when you hit it, like, there's nobody there. And so, and Brock got out and, you know, cleaned the guy up. I mean, it was pretty brutal hit. And so, but he does the best at that getting flat. That's a unique skill set for a center to get from where he's at to that point. You got to get flat and you got to go. And, you know, he got there with bad intentions. And so he was the reason the play hit, obviously.
Shannon, with Jordan Lyle, just curious what you've seen from him. What, you know, I think a lot of people, you guys too, expected him to have a bigger year than he's had in terms of production. What can you pinpoint? If it's injury earlier, just kind of what's...
Yeah, I think coming off an injury, and I do think that when you're in his situation and expectations are high and things aren't going exactly the way you want them to go, you press. You know, he's just, to me, he's trying to do too much. Like, Jordan's an extremely talented kid, you know, and he can break a game wide open. And so it's, and I know it's probably not what you want to hear, but I go back to what I was saying earlier, just loosen up a little bit and play ball. Like, stop trying to, like, win the game on every play. Just execute the play, don't get in too much of a hurry, settle down, and just take a deep breath and take advantage of the absolute play that's in front of you. And probably, in a way, just stop overthinking it. You know what I mean? Just relax and play football. He's been running the football since he was whatever age, right? And so he's more than capable of being exactly who we want him to be. And he's going to be that. And so, and he's going to start hitting his stride pretty soon. And part of that is just relaxing and playing ball.
It seems like you're still confident in him the way you just...
Oh, extremely. I love that kid. I mean, he's more than, I mean, he's the talent you're looking for right there. And so he just needs to, in a way, and it's not just talking to him, but just get out of his own way a little bit, right? And just kind of just relax and let natural ability take over and stop. You know, a lot of times when you're in his role and like you're not getting all the carries, but you're getting some carries, then you get in there, and when you get one, you try to score every time, you know, instead of just doing your job on that play. And those things will come just because you're a talented dude, right? And so it'll come with him. He's getting there.
Awesome. Thank you.
Appreciate it, guys.
Coach, talk a little bit about the consistency that you guys have been able to have pretty much most of the year. I mean, obviously a few blips here and there, but really every game you guys are showing up and playing pretty consistently well.
Yeah, I think it's the way that our guys prepare. I think during the week we treat everything like a game situation. Every time we take the field, we do it from a huddle or from a break, whether it's practice, it's a Tuesday, it's a Wednesday, or it's a Saturday, no matter where we're playing. And I think just trying to get our guys in the mindset, of situational football, of taking the field, of playing together as a group, and then just communicating and being mentally prepared every single series, no matter first quarter, fourth quarter, no matter the field position, home or away. And I think our guys have done a really good job of working together through that and getting themselves prepared as a unit every single series to go out and try to get a stop.
What type of challenges quarterback CJ Bailey going to pose this week?
Yeah, I think he's having a really good year. I think he moves around well, he extends plays, he's throwing the football really well right now. He's a guy that we got to try to affect early. And I think, he's played well in every game. It's, his location, seeing it, reading it. He finds the open receivers. He does a good job against man and zone. And we got to try to get him off track.
With Wesley wasn't able to play as much, obviously, you think of Popo and Chase filling in and getting stretch yards. How did the two of them look in terms of being able to fill in when Wes wasn't able to go?
Yeah, those are guys that we've played all year. And, I think they've done a really good job starting Notre Dame all the way through. And, I look at those guys, same thing. I look at them all as starters. We have a deep room there, and those guys have stepped up and played in different situations, different packages, normal downs. And, I think all season long we've moved their positions around. Sometimes they're the Mike, sometimes they're the Will, sometimes it's a package where they're an edge. And, I think those guys have handled that really well, moving around, playing different positions, and then working together. Sometimes we're moving around which guy's working with who. And we've done that all season. We've done that, it really started in spring football, carried into fall camp. And I think those guys are just comfortable communicating, working together with different guys, working together with different safeties. And I think it's helped them out in the situations now in the season where, this series you may not have a certain guy or, we just got to make sure they're all ready to go.
Corey, going back to facing CJ Bailey, just applying pressure. It's a point of emphasis every week, but maybe especially this one because of the splits.
Yeah, I think he's talented. I think what they do on offense is difficult to stop, but I think, we got to go out, we got to stop the run, we got to affect the quarterback, and we got to hit him. We got to try to hit him as much as we can early in the game. It's going to be winning up front, winning in the box, winning. I think our defensive line's done a really good job this year of knocking back the line of scrimmage and collapsing the pocket, and that's going to be the emphasis right from the start.
When you are able to get pressure or hits on, as you mentioned, early in the game, what does that do for essentially for your defense, but also the quarterback as he probably processes moving forward?
Yeah, I think that's that's the one thing taken away from the SMU game. Still, we didn't get enough hits early in the game, and that's affecting that position. We just got to always make sure that we're affecting the quarterback early in a game. We can take the run away and collapse the pocket and affect the throw. I think that's something we want to try to do early in the game and as much as we can.
With the King Mesidor, just what's impression the most about what he's been able to provide you guys this season?
Yeah, it all started, I think, spring football, but right after spring football, the way he's gone about the process of taking care of his body. The details of situational football, his position, being able to play multiple positions for us, the way that he stepped up as a leader on the defense, really right after spring football, during spring football. But I thought right after he really accepted the challenge to pull the defense together, to grow the defense together or closer as a unit. And, I think the way he's attacked treatment and getting back to full strength, and the way he played last week, and it's relentless the way you watch him collapse the pocket and swarm after the football, and how physical he plays up front, going through people all the time. And he's worn a couple different hats, playing different positions, dropping in coverage at times, and I just think he's a guy that's accepted the role, and he's he's done an unbelievable job with it so far, and looking forward to him continuing to build on that as the season keeps going.
The stand you guys made in the red zone before halftime, where you whipped the ball out and there was a swarm there to jump on the ball. As a coach, how pleased were you with that instance in the game, just as a culmination? I'm sure you're preaching takeaways and fighting till the end and coming up big in the red zone.
Yeah, that was, I think that's one of the bigger plays in the game. You know, they have a 2-minute situation right before the half, and, you know, they come out and we get the pick 6 on 3rd down. I think to go up 14. And then right away, we're back up again on defense. And that's where, you know, you get the pick 6, but now you can't give up the touchdown. And, you know, they drive the field. We have a misfit. And, you know, I think they had 1 or 2 big plays in that series in the run game. And, you know, they drive all the way down. And then we misfit that same exact play like 2 plays earlier. We peak, one guy comes out of a gap, the running back bounces it. I think Damari makes a really good play on the sideline to save the touchdown. And, you know, then they come back, they go to the same play against the same call, and our guys, I think it was Justin Scott, knocks the line of scrimmage back. You know, Mez sets the edge and puts the tackle back into the play, and the running back now doesn't have anywhere to go. And then just the smarts, you know, in that situation, and, you know, to understand to hold the back up and go get the football and pry it out. And then, you know, our guys knocking the running back away from the pile. You know, the one guy that knows the ball's on the ground, I thought our guys did a really good job of getting him away from the ball so that we could recover it and then go into halftime now up 14 rather than 14-3 or 14-7. You know, I thought winning the middle 8 right there really swung the game. You know, scoring a touchdown before half. You know, unfortunately, we gave up a field goal in the first drive of the second half, but then our offense went right back down and scored again to kind of give us that, you know, 17-3 or was that 21-3, I think, at that point. And I thought that kind of changed the entire momentum of the game.
Jacoby Thomas seems like he's always around the ball, always in position to get some takeaways. What allows him to be that type of player?
Yeah, I think that free safety position, you know, we're dropping him down in the box, we're making him in the run fit. Sometimes he's in the post, we're blitzing him off the edge, we're blitzing him internal. You know, he does a little bit of everything. And it's similar to like the way we use that nickel position with Keontae. And, you know, I think he fits that role really well. And I think we have, you know, a couple safeties that do a really good job. I was excited, you know, Dylan did some good things, and Jay Rich did some really good things when he came in later in the game, making plays in the backfield and then making plays in space away from the ball. But I just think he plays very fast. He loves the game of football. You know, he's very talented, and we can do a lot of different things with him. You know, coverage-wise and blitz-wise, and, you know, I think he affects the game with how fast he plays and how confident he is right now within the defense and within the scheme. And, you know, he gets the fumble recovery, and then he has the pick, and, you know, I'm still upset at the pick. He didn't just take it right up the sideline. You know, Louisville thought he had the pick, and he takes off, and a little bit hesitant in this one, but, you know, that's a big-time play in that situation because we got him second and off track. I think he had the sack the play before. He was one-on-one versus the back, and he did a good job winning, and then Bain did a really good job of making sure the quarterback couldn't escape back to the field. You know, he deserves credit on that sack also for what he did from the field side. Got him off track, and then he gets the pick, and, you know, I thought that was a big momentum shift and, you know, helped our guys get a short field and go down and score another touchdown. But I think, you know, the more he plays in that role, you know, and he didn't have spring football here. So I think he's getting more and more confident every week, and it's showing up on film now.
You mentioned Jadis Richard. He's a guy that, you know, coming back from an injury, has some physical traits, has some experience. Is he a guy that can make his way into the rotation? What did you see that you liked, I guess?
Yeah, he's, you know, coming back, you could see it in practice, and now it's just getting more confidence, you know, just getting him more reps. But he's a guy that's a really good football player. And, you know, I loved, it was like the 4th and 8. You know, he comes off the edge, and I think he had a half sack or had the sack with Mez, and you could see the energy from the sideline from everyone, all his teammates getting back out on the field and making a big-time play. Huge play, and, you know, to keep them off the board at that point and kind of put the game away. But, you know, I think he's a guy that we're going to continue to look at getting in the rotation. He's a very good football player, and you know, we're excited to have him back and full go now.
I think you talked about Justin Scott last week, but he's stacked another good performance, and encouraging to see that.
Yeah, I think, like, as you keep in, the defensive line's always the hardest. You know, I always feel like some positions you can plug and play younger guys early, but the development of just playing inside and playing physical and getting bigger and getting stronger, and you can see it as the season's gone on. You know, he makes a really good effort play against Notre Dame, and then there's a couple games in there where maybe he doesn't quite play as much, but now like playing with better technique, playing with better pad level, continuing to develop with his hands. And now the last couple games, he consistently gets better and better. And he's playing with more confidence. He's knocking the line of scrimmage back more. He's starting to go through people. His footwork and his base are better every single week as he has more power now. And, you know, and there's a couple guys up front, you know, but he's one of the guys that, you know, him and Dante, and, you know, now you see Third getting more reps. I think he was in the first series of the game this week, and he's a guy that, you know, I trust him in the game a ton. You know, and he did some really good things early in the game, you know, collapsing the pocket and setting edges. But all those guys are continuing to develop, and I think our coaches have done a really good job with them, getting them ready to be in this position where later in the season, you never know health, how many reps there's going to be in a game, or, you know, what's going to happen play to play or series to series. And those guys have trusted the process, and they work at it every single day in practice on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. And our strength program's done a really good job of getting them prepared for the situations we're in right now.
Awesome. Thank you, Coach.
All right.
Go ahead.
I know, with Keontae Scott in particular, the position that he plays, he's obviously played well. That role and responsibility in your defense when you have a player playing that well, I mean, you put into words the value of that, of having a guy play all that's expected.
Yeah, I mean, he has the ability to do a little bit of everything. He, you know, underneath zone coverage, blitz, you know, work internal work off the edge, and then just his awareness and how smart he is on the field, like understanding what's going to happen, communicating with the safety in the corner and the Mike linebacker, and, you know, just kind of anticipating what's going to happen on certain plays because he's he's got those accumulated reps at this point, and he has a really good feel for the position. And he's a guy, you know, he could be the safety, he could be the nickel. There's so many different roles. You could probably play him at corner. There's so many different roles we could play him in, and, you know, I think he's accepted that role. He's playing faster and faster every week, and you know, I'm excited to see. I think he's going to continue to play even better as the season goes on here.
Was it hard in terms of, if we go back into evaluating him as a player, what he did before, you got in terms of fitting into what you guys are having to do?
Yeah, I think with what we do, it's not so much about fitting what we do. It's about finding the best players and then adapting and evolving to make sure, how do we get those guys on the field? And, you know, he was a guy you turn the tape on, it was like, how do we get that guy here? You know, and he was a really good player, and, you know, since the day he's gotten here, he's made everyone else around him better. And he's a guy that, you know, just whatever, you know, in the building with his teammates, constantly pulling guys in, you know, constantly getting his teammates better, watching film or at different events, and growing the defense together, and his confidence level and just who he is as a person, you know, I think makes the defense better every single day. And but he's a guy, like, you know, it's not so much what we did last year with the scheme or X's and O's. It's more about, okay, this is a really good football player. Now, how do we get him on the field and allow him to play fast in that role? And that's something that, you know, he's done a really good job of accepting and allowing us to do a lot of different things because of who he is and what his ability is. So.
Anything else? Great. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it. Thank you.